So not that long ago, I made a video talking about the Mean Girls 2024 remake, which I ended up quite enjoying that movie, and it has made me a fan of the Mean Girls franchise. I know a lot of people always talked about it. It's got a cult following that's dedicated to the franchise, and I heard that the movie was good. However, I never interacted with it myself. When the original movie came out in 2004, I was only 5 years old, and I didn't understand women and barely talked to them. So I guess not much has really changed in the past 20 years, except for the fact that I've seen this movie now. Nevertheless, I never read the book or saw the stage adaptation, and obviously, as I just mentioned, I never saw the 2004 movie. But because I like the 2024 one, I decided to go back, not rewatch, I suppose I watched it for the first time, so I never saw it before, the 2004 movie, and see how I feel about it since I'm now ingrained in this franchise. And it's fine, like, it's not crazy, but like, I had a good time watching the movie. I just think it could have been better.
Move this man!
All right. Hear me out for a second, okay? I have one very hyper-specific problem with this movie, and it's the fact that all of these characters feel like archetypes more than they do people. Like, this movie came out in 2004, and it feels like it was specifically made to thrive and survive in 2004 because of this problem. Every character in this movie doesn't feel like a person. They just feel like the mold that you would start to create a personality for a character in. Like, just look at this cast, for example. You have the main character. You have the girl who's not like other girls. You have the gay best friend. You have the bitch. You have the bitch's lackeys. You've got the horny guy. You've got the guy that the main character falls in love with. You've got the teacher that likes the main character. You've got the teacher who hates his job. Like, you get my point. Like, all of these characters fit into hyper-specific molds, and they don't really have much character depth beyond that, which kind of makes me upset because I really would have liked them to have more. Hell, even my favorite comedy that did come out in 2006, Euro Trip, it has more depth for the main characters. They're basically one-note characters for the entire movie, but they all go through small individual arcs that make them feel more like real people than they do just characters meant to push jokes along for an hour and plus for the runtime. And I think that makes them feel more real and enjoyable as opposed to Mean Girls, because I'm just like, okay, I get the point. There are all these archetypes for different kinds of jokes and everything like that, and the narrative's going to push forward. And Katie does have a character arc in the movie, but she's the main character, so it doesn't really count, because if she didn't have an arc, the movie wouldn't exist in the first place, because there wouldn't be a story to tell. But that aside, no one else really goes through any major changes in my personal opinion that I really saw, and I was just kind of like, okay, well, that's fine. I mean, the movie still is funny. I know a lot of people nowadays might say like some of the jokes in the movie are outdated, and I can understand that, but I have thicker skin in regards to comedy. I think it's intended to be a joke in the first place. I'm not supposed to take it that seriously. I'm not going to get offended by it regardless of how outlandish it is given the setting and tone of it. So I didn't really have a problem with a lot of the offensive jokes, like the whole joke about the gym teacher sleeping with the two Asian students. Like, I feel like a lot of people nowadays would have issues with that joke if they've never seen this movie before, but like, I found it funny, and like, yeah, it's offensive, but like, that was kind of the point. So I thought that was pretty cool. I do have some problems with this movie that I did have with the remake that came out, that being the whole heel turn of Katie's boyfriend, well, guy she's interested in. They like kind of date, but then like they don't. Like, it, you know, you've seen the movie probably if you're watching this video. Like, he has a very sharp heel turn and gets offended by what Katie says very quickly. And like, it bothered me in the remake, and the scene is basically exactly the same in the 2004 one. So like, I was like, oh, I was kind of hoping that the scene would have been more fleshed out here, and that they just kind of rushed it in the remake because they were running out of time. But like, no, the scene's more or less the same, and it still bothered me here. As well as a new problem that isn't in the remake, which is the fact that the way Katie meets her friends is very weird, and it makes everyone in the movie feel very mean. which I get it. The movie is called Mean Girls, so obviously there are going to be mean characters in the movie. But like the way Katie and her friends meet and they become friends just felt awkward. Like it was the start of an arc that just never existed in the movie. Because when Katie first meets her friends in the 2004 movie, she ends up asking them for directions to how to get to her next class. I think it was her health class. So they tell her directions and they're like, we'll show you how to get there, but they're lying. They end up taking Katie to like their secret spot where they hang out so they can skip class. And Katie does not want to skip class. She has an inner monologue being like, I don't want to skip class, but I'm afraid I'm never going to be able to make friends if I ditch these guys right now.
Your friends?
I know it's wrong to skip class, but Janice said we were friends, and I was in no position to pass up friends.
And like, it felt like it was supposed to be the start of an arc for Katie to like overcome her insecurities and maybe like find better friends that appreciate her for who she is, but like, that's not the case. These guys just end up being her best friends throughout the rest of the movie, which felt very strange to me because it's like, why would you have that line of dialogue if it was pointless? Because like, if Katie just met them and then skipped class with them, it's like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm down for this. And then they became friends. It's much more digestible than having her have like this insecure moment where it feels like something's going to come of it when nothing ever does. And just as a case in point, they did change that in the remake where Katie meets her friends by them finding her sitting alone eating lunch in a bathroom.
Are you okay in there?
Yes? I'm Janice.
And Jim Appel Sasha Fierce.
This is Damien. He is almost too gay to function.
We volunteer to amplify your lunch experience.
Get out of the toilet!
And it makes it just feel warmer and nicer as opposed to the way it is in the original, and I very much like that change. So like, this scene really bothered me, and I had to mention that. But all over, I did really like Mean Girls 2004. It's a funny movie. I don't think I'll be rewatching it as much as a lot of people would. I'd probably rewatch the 2024 remake more often than I would watch this. But, you know, if someone put it on, I'm not going to be actively against it, being like, oh, Mean Girls 2004, man. I don't know about, I'm not going to be like that because the movie is still good. It's still a solid movie despite my gripes of wanting more depth for the characters aside and like the little nitpicks I have about specific scenes. It's a very well made movie. It's very funny and I understand why it garnered a cult following, even though it's not a massive cult following because I saw the original movie cost like about $18 million to make and made $130 million. So like that's not an excessive amount. It's great for what the budget of the first movie was, but like, that's not that many people in comparison to what you see movie numbers like today, where like a lot of movies in a year are hitting like $1 billion in the box office. So it's like, you know, obviously there's a difference in scaling between like what's a popular movie and what's like a cult classic. And I feel like Mean Girls operates in a cult classic, given the fact, like, you know, not that many people saw it, but it still has a respectable fandom that still garners attention from like all the different adaptations that are made between, you know, the stage adaptation, this remake film, and whatever else may come in the future. So, yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about 2004 Mean Girls. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, comment if you feel like it. Let me know how you feel about my thoughts about the movie, if you disagree, agree, whatever the case may be. And last but most certainly not least, I'm the innocent villain. Remember, folks, your innocence will prove villainous, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.